Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our next webinar. This is number 39. Hard to believe I've done that many. All right, so today we've done something a little different with this as far as like the notes go. I know a lot of you have already gotten them. Usually I sell them regular $10 on sale for $7.50. This time they're $15 on sale for $10, because if you purchase the notes for this webinar, you're also going to get the notes for the August follow-up webinar, which I've scheduled for August 20th, I believe. And that webinar is only going to be available to the people who have purchased the notes. It's an exclusive, so you'll be able to ahead of time send me some questions, and I'll send out instructions on all of that. And then if there's stuff we didn't get to today, we'll do it then, and then we'll expand on some of it. So it's kind of going to be a little different, but it'll give people a chance to ask questions and things like that. Alrighty, so today, yes, and if you are typing in the chat box, please change the "to" to everyone and not just hosts and panelists, so everybody can see your questions. I'm probably going to wait to the end of each project to take questions today, because I've got a lot of stuff to cover, and so yeah, be prepared. We probably will run over, as Dave said. So, you know, if you can hang with us a little longer, that would be great. All right, so I'm going to do just a couple quick slides and kind of go over what we're covering today. So there's some newer features in Photoshop that have come out in the last update or two. We have Next Generation AI, which includes removing backgrounds and generating backgrounds. There's the Generative Fill, which I love, and we're going to be showing you lots of that. The Generative Expand, which is great when you need to add some space around your margins of the photo. You know, you cropped a little too tight, you cut something off, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. They've also improved the font browser in this last update, which I really, really like, because I used to be a typesetter, so I'm kind of a type nerd, and it makes it a lot easier to find fonts. Because if you're like me, you've got lots of them. And then also in the last update that just came out last week is the new adjustment brush. So we're going to touch on that. And then in the beta of Photoshop, they've now moved Firefly is accessible in Photoshop. They don't call it Firefly in the beta version, but that's basically what it is. So you don't have to go to a standalone product to generate images. So you can generate just with a text prompt, or you can put in reference images, or you can tell it to generate you can put in an image and say generate something similar style-wise, and it also can do some enhancing of details. So, alrighty, so let me get out of there. Catherine, I see there's a zip file, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in that file. I can't check it right now, but it should all be there. There should be the terms of use, the actual notes, and then all of the images that we're going to be working with today. If you have an issue, there are 2 downloads. The first one has the terms of use and 4 images. The second part has another 4 images and the actual notes. So there's 2 zip files in there. Alrighty, so today we're going to start with this hydrangea image. So this is one I don't even remember where I photographed this one, and I did crop it very tight. It's got the checkerboard background because I removed the background previously, but then I decided I wanted to put some textures behind it or create a new background, but I wanted that other leaf in there. So this is where we can start doing some Generative Expand. So when you are in Photoshop, and I am working in, not the beta yet, I'm working in the regular one, and then we'll switch to the beta for that stuff later, just because all my stuff is where I know it should be in this one. You know how it is with new versions, they don't always bring everything over. So in here, so you want to have your contextual taskbar open. And if you don't see it floating anywhere on your screen, you're going to go to Window, and it's down here at the bottom, contextual taskbar. Say that 3 times fast. And it will pop up where it thinks it needs to be depending on what you're working on, which I find extremely annoying. So if you hit the 3 little dots at the right side of the bar, you can pin the bar wherever you want. So I keep it down here at the bottom of my screen so it's not in my way, but you can move it anywhere that you want it to be. And I don't need my next stuff open right now, so let's close those little panels. There we go. Okay, so I want to add some space over here, right, and add that leaf. So we're going to go to the crop tool, and then I'm just going to drag, whoops, not that, crop tool, thank you, there we go. And we are going to make sure up at the top it says Generative Expand, and I got to get rid of this size I had in there for before, so let's move that back over here. And then I'm going to move this side out and give it enough room to add that leaf in, so to about there. And when I let go, because I have Generative Expand up here, I'm going to click the check mark, and it is going to generate 3 versions of what it's going to put in there. No, you don't have to follow along in Photoshop. You have the images so you can do it later and follow along with the replay if you want, if you have the notes. But it's better to watch than to try to follow along because it's hard to keep up when you're doing that. Alrighty. Oh, yes, Colleen, and please change to everyone when you comment. So because I had a transparent background here, you'll see it added more leaves, which we really don't want, but that's okay because we'll just get rid of those. What I'm just concerned about right now is this leaf. And every time you do this, it's going to be a little different, but that's why you get several options. So we'll click the second one. I like the shape of that leaf a little better. That's the third one. That's actually not a bad leaf, and it would be easy to remove that background to keep it transparent. Usually you're not doing this on a transparent background, so it would fill in the appropriate data over here. It's just filling in what it thinks it should have. So, and if you don't like any of these 3, click the Generate button again, and it'll give you 3 more options. You'll still have those 3 here. Let's move this up and make it a little bigger. So you can do this as many times as you want. So here's another one. Oh, I like that leaf shape better. So that one's definitely a plus. That one's actually not bad either. No, don't like that one at all. So it's between that one or that one. So for simplicity's sake right now, I'm going to choose this one. So all you have to do is just close this, and here it is. It's on this panel. Okay. So from here, I'm going to merge these 2 layers because I know I like that leaf, and it just makes it easier. It does make this a smart object, but it doesn't seem to work like a regular smart object. So I just find it easier to either flatten it or merge it. I'm just going to go Layer, Merge, Visible, because I know I like that one. And then I'm just going to go in here, grab my quick selection brush, and select all of this that I don't want. And I'm going to hit my Delete key, Control D to deselect, and there we go. Now we have a full image. So let's see. Donnell, I like the one from the previous. Yes. And at first when I was doing this and working with it, I'm like, but once I close that panel, I can't get back to them, right? Well, I can't get back to them now because I flattened it. You know, I merged those layers, but I am going to show you as we go on, you can get back to all of them as long as you don't flatten it. So they'll kind of get answered as we go along. It's in my thing here. Okay, and there we go. So I'm going to leave that. The other option of not flattening is I actually have this in the notes. So let's undo that for a second. Let's get back to here. So if I tried to select that here, going on this layer, oh, now it's letting me. It wouldn't let me do that before. Let's see. See, I'm still learning all this stuff too. And I hit delete. Yeah, it tells me I can't do that because it's a smart object. So what I found is if you right-click this layer and say convert to layers, just a regular layer and not a smart object, now you can see here's all of the different versions. It converted them all to layers. But now I can delete that background from this one. And there you go. And if you don't want to keep these here, you can delete them, or you can, just collapse that, and they're all kind of hidden underneath of it. But now it let me do that. Alrighty. So then I would still save this again as a PNG because I want to keep that transparent background. All right. So let's see if we have any other questions. Yeah, Shelley, if you're having an issue with connection, definitely log out and log in again. Sometimes that will help. Yeah, I can't do anything about that, unfortunately. I would like to, but I don't run Zoom. So, no, I'm not going to save this. File close. No, I don't want to save that. Okay. Next up, we're going to do a little bit more generative fill and generative expand. So I'm going to open up this image. And then I'll show you this one at the end that I ended up with because I've not been able to really replicate what I wanted to do up here from what I did before. So I find too when you have lots of things that you want to do, like I want to, do like this area down here. I want to get rid of that reddish tone. And I want to get rid of some of these leaves and create something else here. Do the steps separately and you end up with better results. So first I'm going to do, so you want to use your lasso tool to do this. And I'm going to kind of go around where I want it to delete. Sometimes you want to overlap it if you're trying to match it. I really wanted to come up with something altogether different up there. And then once I do that, I'm just going to go to my generative fill down here on that contextual toolbar. I'm not going to put a prompt in it. I'm just going to hit generate. Usually if you're trying to remove something like that or blend it in, you don't usually have to put a prompt unless you want something very specific. Actually, that one didn't come out too bad. Let's see what else we have here. No. So that was pretty close to what I ended up with before. I wanted something that was like more the end of a branch rather than just everything running off of the page. But I will get rid of that little spot. So I'm going to, again, I'm going to do a merged layer. And if you've watched any of my things, you've seen me do this a million times. So I don't flatten it out. I'm going to do the Control, Alt, Shift, and the letter E. Command Option Shift E on a Mac, and that merges them without removing the ones below it. And then I just name it merged. And I'm going to go to my healing brush and just get rid of what I don't want up there. Kind of like that. All right. And then from here, now I have this merged layer. I don't need to open. I'm going to grab my lasso again, and I'm going to kind of go around this area down here. Generative fill, generate. So I did a pretty good job. A little dark. That one's a little better. Yeah, I think we go with number 2. It's a little bit more like what everything else is down here. So that's good there. And then what I also wanted to do was add some more space at the top because I was pretty close on that top petal there. So we go back to that crop tool and just raise it up about there. And the yellow is showing up because that's my background color at the moment. If you have white or black, it doesn't matter because it's going to go away anyway. And just click the check mark. Make sure you're on the Generative Expand in here. And it will give us our 3 versions. And I'll show you the finished one because I did some Nick filters and stuff to kind of jazz this up. And you can see it's added pretty nice selection there. Yeah, I like the first one the best, I think. And if you wanted to tone that down, you could, you know, just either heal it out or darken that spot. So let me open up my finished one. Takes a few seconds. So here's what I did before. So there's, it shows this just because we did an expansion, even though we didn't do that first. That was the upper left corner, and this was what it ended up there, and I kind of liked that. It's pretty similar, I think, to what it came up with here. Yeah, fairly close. In the bottom, expand the top, and then I did some Nick stuff and a couple textures on there. So that's that one. So I'll close all. Alrighty. One more. So this is where you really found that if you're going to do multiple sides of expansion, definitely do them one at a time, because I tried doing like all of it and it just really was messy. It didn't come out very good. So we're going to do this, and want to get the edges of these petals a little bit. Tricia says, I often see it's recommended to delete all the generated options, the ones you don't pick, to make your final file size smaller. I was doing that, but then I read somewhere that it really didn't make a whole lot of difference, because you're not actually putting them on a layer. They're just kind of in this panel. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I really know I like what I have and am not going to want to change my mind, then I may just delete them. So I kind of like, that one looks pretty good. And Pat says, I always merge down after each generation to manage the panels better. Yeah, you can do that, definitely. As always, there's multiple ways, and it depends on, you know, how much space you need, you know, have. I've got lots of storage space, so I don't usually worry about it too much. And there's not, like, I don't do this on every image, so, you know, it's like editing. People say, well, why do you save all the versions? Well, you don't do that, you know, you don't edit every picture, so. All right, so that's that one. And then we're gonna grab that again. Let's do our top a little. And you can, you know, do rotating, as it says, expanding and cropping all at the same time. That's what we got here. That one, or kind of like the curve in that one. That looks pretty good. And then we'll do our other side. And you can move this around so that you can see better. Oops, where'd it go? All right, I just closed. So if you accidentally close the panel like I just did, and you go, where'd all my versions go? Down here at the bottom in your contextual taskbar, you'll see one of 3. And this is where you can also come back to them. If you save all of these in a TIFF file, you can reopen. If you click on that panel, you will see that there are still other options here. So let's go to this one. So that's the first option. There's the second option. There's the third option. I'm not really thrilled with any of them color-wise, but we could always tone that down if we needed to. I would probably regenerate it again, but for time, I kind of want to just show you what this would do. And then I also, I'm going to reset this because that yellow is annoying. grab this again. And I didn't want to get the whole flower, but I wanted to add a little bit more just to see what that would look like. Can you select the background and generate a new one? Yes, we'll be getting to that. So here's version 1, 2, 3, kind of like that one. So again, if you Cheryl, I know. I have often wanted to add a bit, but I didn't get in the image, and it seems like cheating. I'm going to learn to cheat. Well presented. So what's that, dear? Yeah, it's artistic license. We're not trying to say, you know. I mean, if somebody asked and say, yeah, I did add to it a little. I cropped it too tight, you know. To me, it's no worse than, yeah, you wouldn't do that if you were entering this in a competition, because then it's a big no-no. But for your own use, nobody's going to judge you. Surely not me. Pat Rec, I got over it pretty quickly. Yeah, me too. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. And to me, it's really not much different than using content-aware fill. It's doing the same thing. It's just different technology, but it's doing the same thing. It's generating something that wasn't there, or removing something, or, you know, it's no worse than doing that. So there's the final image with all of the sides expanded. So close that one. No, I haven't found it to be, Bill. I haven't found it to be a lower resolution. I haven't had any issues with it. Could you tell the difference? What was it? If you were judging? Probably not. I think on an image like that one there, maybe I might question it. I did have one image. I was judging a club a month or so ago, and it definitely looked like the background was replaced, whether it was done manually or with AI. I didn't really ding them too much for it. It wasn't a nature competition, so it was an open category. It was a bird in flight, and to me it looked like, you know, just around the edges of the bird you can kind of tell, you know, that they've replaced it. So, you know, usually you can. Yeah, I do a lot of judging, and I don't think I would in most cases. All right, so this one I did a bunch of things to. And then I'm gonna probably skip the next one and go on, because I think you get the hint. So I left the layers here so you can kind of see it. Just time-wise, I wanted to keep this one simple. So let's start with that's my original. And there's some like spots in here, some little spots. I just duplicated my background layer, and I used the regular healing brush to get rid of those. Then I want to get rid of this stuff over here on the left. So these are all, you know, generative fills with no prompts. And I wanted to get rid of the second piling. So get rid of that one. Then I did a merge layer. And then, which I don't know why I did, but I did. And then I wanted to get rid of all this reflected stuff up here on the top. So there's our merge layer. You can see my selection area. And that got rid of all of that. And then there was a few little spots and things that I then added a separate layer and did some healing and cloning. So it didn't change the essence of what I photographed. So I would not, like I said, I wouldn't put this in a competition, definitely not in a nature competition, because you can't remove things, or you couldn't even have it because of this pole, because that's a hand of man. But to go from that, and he was just sitting there posing, but I couldn't get an angle that I didn't have all this distractions around him. So I just cleaned it up. And the AI just made it a lot easier. You could have done the same thing with healing and, you know, cloning and all that. It would take a lot longer. But that was that one. And then let me do this other bird real quick. I'll do the same thing. Is a merged layer the same as rasterizing? No. Rasterizing is when you have a smart layer and you don't want it to be a smart layer anymore. That's when you rasterize it, and that just makes it a regular layer. And like on a smart layer, if you want to do certain things, it won't let you just do it on the layer like with these. So that's why I changed that other one in the earlier on. So it's there. And the difference between merging and flattening. Merging, if I wanted to just merge, say like this layer and this layer, those two layers, that's when you would go to layer, merge layers, and it would only merge the ones that are highlighted. Flattening is going to flatten all your layers. Merge visible is if you had most of your layers turned off. Let's say we turned them all off, but that one and that one. And if you did merge visible, then it would only merge those two layers, and it would not change anything else. Hopefully that helps. So that's my original. Again, this was at the same place. This one we were in South Carolina in April. It was early morning. You can tell by the color. The birds were very cooperative. These were right along the shoreline. I was on a little dock they have that goes out into the water with some seating areas. I just had started with a tripod and then ended up going handheld. But it was getting the reflections of the piers and things behind it. So I went in here and started getting rid of that one first with the generative fill. And then this had a little weird thing up here, so I did a little just peeling, I think, over there. And then I merged them. And then I got rid of that area. And then merged it one more time, and there was if you look, there's a little dark spot down there. That's the before and the after, and there was also some black right up here in the corner, and I just healed those out. So yeah, these are all in the notes. All of the steps that I did are in the notes, and then you get the original image if you want to practice on it. Okay, so that's the basics of generative fill and generative expand. Let's close that one. So now I want to show you that new selection brush tool. It's an adjustment brush, but it's selected. So I'm going to open, yes, I am recording. Yep. Going to go back to, I'm going to bring up my finished one of the pretty in pink, and we're going to do some selective brushing on here. So this brush shows up on my toolbar. It came up right at the end on the bottom here. This is the new brush right here. Okay. And once you click that brush and activate it, up at the top, you can now choose what adjustment you want to do to it. Do you want to do brightness and contrast, or levels, or curves, exposure, vibrance, hue and saturation, etc., and then some of the other stuff you can do. So I'm going to choose vibrance for my first selection. So you want to decide how much you want it to be. I like to start with opacity and flow with my brushes at 100%. And we're going to duplicate this layer. So then if we find it's too much, then you can lower the opacity of this layer a little bit. And then once you click in the image, you get this new pop-up over here where you can also adjust the saturation and the vibrance. So I'm going to leave the vibrance at 100. And then I'm going to just paint over the flowers. So you'll see that when I clicked in this image, it created a new layer. This is the vibrance adjustment, and it's basically giving you a mask that's a black mask, so it hid everything. So now you're painting with white to reveal that adjustment. So it's kind of just a quicker way of doing something that you could have done before with an adjustment layer and a mask, but it's just kind of made it faster to get to the point where you can just start painting and not have to, select the adjustment, you've got the mask, fill it with black, etc., etc. It just makes it a quicker process. So first I did a little bit of vibrance, and then next I'm going to go up to hue and saturation. And again, the layer doesn't show up until you click. And then here's our adjustment, and I'm going to switch to the reds. And I'm going to take that to -45. And then I'm going to paint where I want that to be. So I'm going to pull down the red color on these flowers a little bit. And it's not a huge change, so it might be a little hard to see, but if you play around with it, you definitely would see that. And then I'm going to go in, again, reopen, just like a normal adjustment layer, double click that. Now we can come back in here, and I want to do the magentas, and I want to bring that down. And you could do the amount of the adjustment afterwards, so I could come in here, and if I didn't know already what I wanted, because I did this before, let's do that real quick. You could come in here now that I've done it, and now you can, adjust the saturation. Make sure you're on the right one. Let's go back to 0 there. We want that to be on the magentas. And you can, if I go back and forth, you can see if I add saturation or if I take it away. So you can create the mask, and then you can adjust it afterwards. And then I brought that about there. And then I'm going to go into the yellows. And I brought that down a little bit. And I just brought down a little bit on these leaves here that were like exceptionally bright. Just brought down a little bit of the yellow. And there you have it. And then, I did one more. So let's go up here. I'm going to do a brightness and contrast. And I'm going to do a click in here. And it does show that, so if you don't like that, you can always go back over it with a white, switch your brush to black and just go back over that. So you have a solid mask again. And then I want to make my brightness, so I want to bring it down some. I'm adjusting the corners a little bit. And this time I'm going to put the brush at around 50%, just kind of click in the middle. And make it a little bit bigger, and I just wanted to darken those corners just a little bit more, maybe across the top. So you can do, I forgot to change it back to white. Oops. Michael, it didn't look like it did anything. It's still not, because I'm not on the mask. That would be why. What the heck? I'll get it yet. Here we go. I'm trying to hurry. All right, so you can, again, just paint in as needed. All right, yes, dear. What would happen if your foreground were not black and white? It would not work because masking is based on black and white. That's the only things that will work in here. So it filled it with black for you, so then you're going to use white to take away the mask where you want that adjustment to be. So it's just like regular masking. It's just kind of giving you that head start by filling a layer with mask and then letting you paint in where you want the adjustment. So, alrighty. Thanks, Dave. I like the bokeh too. I did add a little more with a couple of textures when I edited that, some of my bokeh backgrounds. All right. So next, we're going to do replacing a background. So this is a shot I took in the Smokies a few years ago. This bird posed for quite a while. I was shooting out the window of the car with my 150 to 500. And he just sat there very nicely for me. And I've used this image and done textures and whatnot in the background. So we now don't want to be on this brush anymore because we don't have the proper toolbar. So if you ever notice that your toolbar is not saying what you want it to say down here, it's because of whatever tool you're on. So just make sure you're on you can go back to like the move tool or something and it'll kind of default to that. So I want to remove the background. So we're going to do that first. And it did a great job, masked it really well, right? So now I'm going to, let's see, remove background, and it created a mask of my background. So we can add, you could bring in your own new background if you wanted to bring in textures or something that you had. You would just do that now like for anything else. But again, it's a quick way to mask it instead of you doing it, it just did it for us. Sure, Jason, I can do that again. So let's delete the layer mask. Okay, so here's our original. So make sure you're on like the move tool. You know, if you're on this brush that we just used, the toolbar down here is different. So you want to be, it's on your contextual toolbar, and there's going to be remove background. So we're just going to click that, and that's all we have to do, and it's going to mask it for us. So it's also like we used to do the, if you click on your selection tool and do select subject, you can remove it that way. It's just one of those quicker processes that this has done. So again, you can bring in your own background, or we don't need it to do it here. We're not changing that now. So I'm going to go back up to I got to get to the, see, now I don't have what I want here, and I don't remember why it didn't do that. I removed it. I've created a mask, and now I want to have the option for generate background. So let's see if I click on something else, if it will change this. Put it on the move tool. Yeah, that's what I'm on. No, we don't need that popping up. And I don't want to change my mask, so yeah, it's not in the notes. What did I do? How did I do that? The mask is there. I'm on. Oh, that's why. Thanks, Pat. See, Pat always has my answer. That's because I was on the mask, so it was asking me what I wanted to do. So this bar is very smart. So now you want to click back on your image, and now we get this. But I still don't have the option for generate background, which is what I want to do. How did I get? Okay, Pat, how do I get to that? Yeah, we can maybe, let's duplicate the layer. Let's see if we do anything. Like subject. Let's select the subject again. And yeah, and then do, okay. So I click, somehow I'm getting here. So we're into the contextual taskbar, right? And now I'm going to type in the prompt and tell it what I want. So I tried a few things before I came up with one I liked. So I started with blue sky, and these are in the notes, with light clouds, and then click generate. Oh no! Oh, because I had the selection of the bird. Let's undo that. We want to reverse the selection, but it should be giving me a generate the background. Let's deselect, because it just would put it behind it. Maybe I need a new layer below it. Let's try that. Command. If I add a blank layer, I'm on here. Yeah, I guess I could invert it, but I know I did this the other day. See, this is what happens when I don't write things down. All right, so let's duplicate that. Let's make our selection. I'll have to figure this out, and I'll let you know. So for now, I'm going to invert the selection. So I'll go to select, inverse. So now we have the background selected. So now we can type in our prompt. Blue sky with light clouds. so there's the first thing is generated. So that's version 1. Version 2, which I would not call that a sky with light clouds, but none of them was, and I had this before, I wasn't really thrilled with any of them. That one would maybe be okay. So what we're going to do is, here's our prompt here in the box. I'm just going to erase that and type something else. Out of focus, green leaves and trees, and generate. And it's very, doesn't always take what you type literal. And like I said, and in the notes you'll see the ones that it came up with before, because they're different every time. These are similar. Not really what I wanted. I wanted not quite so much bokeh in there. So I changed it again. So out of focus, green leaves, comma, no harsh bokeh. And sometimes you say something with a no and it doesn't understand that. So sure. I see that. Yes, I can show you how to bring in a texture. It's easy. All right, so that one I'm not, just doesn't look very natural. That one's not too bad. But because it was very bright, I changed it one more time to out of focus, dark green leaves. No, I'm going to put no bokeh. Take out the harsh. And generate. I wanted something that would look more natural. It's similar, it's got a little bit of bokeh, but that one's kind of what I asked for. But again, you say no bokeh, it does it anyway. That one's terrible. So I'm going to show you what I ended up with, which is still not very great. Not really what I wanted. That was the one I kind of ended up with. Oh, I guess I did do it that way because I got the, let's see. Maybe I did do it the same way with reselecting and inverting. I'll have to mess with that. I'll let you guys know. Yeah, I have flipped birds like that, Ian, at times. And I do sometimes do that as well. So, yeah, birds don't read, Dave says so. So if I click back on this generative layer, that's not what I want to do. Oh, maybe I didn't save the other versions, because this is where we would normally see all those other versions, but I must not have saved them. I did put a screenshot of them all in the notes so you can see what it came up with for all those prompts. Still not great. It's, obviously not a perfect thing. So let's get rid of that, and let me, do I have something handy? Let me go over here. Let me grab something we can put in the background real quick. All right, hang on. I can't read and read and do stuff at the same time. Yeah, just trying to get to this. So let's go to our Sunday sampler. I'll just grab a texture out of there. What do we have this week? Too many things open on my other screen. All right, so this one I'm just going to pick one. Blur trees green. So I'm just going to drag in a texture. We're going to use for background. Just like if you were adding it as a texture. And if you're not dragging from another screen like I do, you could do File, Place Embedded, select your texture, and it would do the same thing. And then you would just bring that down there. So obviously that's not very good. But if we added a Gaussian blur, that might actually not be so bad. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Yeah, it's better than what the AI came up with. So you could do, something like, and I just undid it, but you get the idea. All right, so you can bring in your own background like that. Alrighty. Questions. Try mountains and sky. Oh, that's an idea. Let's try that. See if we can get back to here. Let's get rid of that. Select. Let's go in here. Select subject. And then select inverse. Generative fill. Mountains and sky. Try one more. And then we have to move on. It just doesn't look very natural. And they put it on a pole, which makes no sense with the wire there. But yeah, it's very, very literal, I found. And I still have to get better at, writing prompts. And if you're on the Creative Cloud, which I'm sure you all are, is why you're watching this, if you go to the well, you can find some of it actually when we open up the beta version. But if you go into, what am I thinking of? Into your Creative Cloud, there's a lot of tutorials for different things. And there's lots of stuff you can find out. And there are lots of samples. If you go into, I think the Firefly site is still open too. I haven't been in there for a while. But you can hover over some of the sample images and it would give you what the prompts were that they used. So that's another way of kind of learning. Because I see some beautiful stuff in some of the Facebook groups that I'm in, and it's like, how did they describe that to get that kind of a beautiful image? All right. So next up, say that again, dear. Oh, no, I didn't do anything with that one. And Terry, make sure you're typing to everybody. Terry asked, when you use select subject, do you need to tell it how much feathering? No, once you have the selection, I would think you could adjust it, but I didn't do anything with that. It did that all by itself. All right, so next up, I'm going to close my regular Photoshop and we're going to open the beta. You cannot have them both open at the same time, in case you didn't know that. It won't let you. Come on, open up. There we go. And this already has an update, and I just updated it the other day, but I didn't update it when I saw it today because I didn't want it to mess something up, because we know how updates go. So when you first come in here, and even in your regular, there are in-app tutorials. You can click right here. It will go over some of the features here with all the AI stuff as well. All right, so the basic steps to generate something. So I'm going to start with a new document. File, new. And I started this one at my kind of typical 10 by 15 with 300 DPI. And I've noticed this one is definitely slower than the main Photoshop. Come on. You can do it. It doesn't want to. There it goes. Wow. That took a while. Yeah, I know there's a new version. We'll do that later. We're not going to do that now. Go away. It's being very, very slow today. All right. So we're going to make sure your toolbar is open, right? We're go back to our move tool so we get what we want down here. You want to either import an image or generate an image, and we are going to be generating. So an importing an image lets you bring in a layer. Kind of works like place embedded, like we did with that texture if you wanted to bring in another image. But for now, we're going to work with generate image. And again, in here, when you go in here, there's a whole bunch of stuff, and if you hover over them, these you can use for remixing. I thought they also told you what the prompts were. Oh, if you click it, then it shows the prompt up here. So like I had seen one that was like the peacock feathers. Of course, it fits me, right? So I clicked on that, but I didn't want to just do that. So then I changed some of the other options and created something of my own. But for this, we're going to start with our own prompt. I want to create a coffee mug sitting on a table. So we are going to come in here, and you can either choose art or photo. So a photo is going to look more like a photo, and art is going to be more like kind of like vector art, like clip art would look, or something that's not a true photograph look. So for this one, I'm going to go with art. And again, you can either choose a reference image from here, or you can import your own. If you click on this one, did I do photo? Let's see, prompt. Yeah, I did photo. So let's do photo. I'm trying to read the basic steps and then I go down to my project. And then we're going to go into our prompt first. And I typed blue coffee mug with coffee inside because I wanted to see the coffee. And this was after doing several versions that I ended up with this. Steam rising. Light tan plain background on a wood table. And the first time I did this, I typed coffee cup, and it wants to do like a cup and a saucer. So I changed it to mug, and most of them didn't put a saucer. One or two did out of the bunch that I tried. So photo. So then you can come down under style. You can either import a reference image if you have a style that you want it to be similar to, or you can go into effects, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. If you go to all, you can do different styles of photos and art. And I chose just digital art for this one. And then we're going to hit our generate. And you will even get, again, you're going to get 3 versions. You can do it again and you'll get more versions. And, oh, that one's very different. I didn't get that one before. Wow. That one's way, way different than what I gotten in any of the things before. Again, you can see I put a saucer there. Yeah, I got the saucer. Wow, these are really different. Okay, I guess I need to change it to solid blue because it's just giving me all kinds of weird stuff here. I didn't have to do that before. So plain. Yeah, it keeps learning every time you do it. So we're going to type plain blue and hit generate. Let's see what we got. And then I'll show you what I ended up with. And again, in the notes, I have screenshots of the different versions I was ending up with. It still wants to put that in there. That is so bizarre. Did I choose? Oh, I chose art, but I did that before. That's weird. That was actually not bad. I kind of like that. What's up, babe? Yeah, I had lots of different things. So some of these I noticed with the steam goes off the top of the page, but I don't really want it to do that. So with the one that I have, I'm going to open up the one that I ended up with because I like that one better. So let's close this one for right now. So this is the one I really wanted. So you can see here's my original size. Let's move this over here. So I thought I was going to have to do a generative thing, but because I started with the 10 by 15, when I clicked on the crop tool, I found that the program actually had created it in a square format. So the top was really there. It just was hiding, and some of the bottom was hiding because I had made it a 10 by 15. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you really want to include everything, you may want to work in a square format to start with and then crop later. So I've been doing that a lot. So here are the ones that I ended up with initially. So here was the first one you can kind of see where it was cut off because of the size. That was the second one. That was the third one. And some of the steam didn't look very real at all. That's the one I ended up with that I like the best. And that one, it just didn't look real. You know, I was going for a realistic as well. So I did that, and then let me put my notes here. So those were my 3. Yeah, so even if, like now I close this panel, again, you can click on that, go back to your move tool, and you'll see 3 of 6. So here's all the different ones. So you can access them even if you've closed that panel. You can get to your prompt, you can get to the changes, and it will pop that back up if I wanted to change from digital art to something else. So you can still get back to that panel even if you've closed it. Okay. So that's basically how you create something. The squares around the layer, those are because I'm on the move tool. So if I wanted to, you know, move it or crop it, that's just the handles that kind of come up. That's always been that way. Oh, maybe I had different effects turned on. Okay, maybe I didn't see I had some other stuff in there. That's why it was giving me fancy mugs that I was like, where did that come from? All right. So that's basically how you do something with complete generation by AI. But I really kind of like that one. So let's go back to I'm not on the right one right now. Where'd it go? In the Firefly beta, you could not use the images that you generated. Can you use the images? I'm not sure what you mean by using them. You can't, you can't say, hey, this is what I took a photo of, because you didn't. Yeah, for commercial work, I don't know what the newest version of stuff is. To be honest, I probably wouldn't use it for commercial work. If somebody's paying me to photograph something, and you know, although I take that back, because I have some pictures that a friend of mine has a little gift shop town over from us, and I have some of my photos up, and a gal had come in and said it was her friend's birthday coming up and she liked dragonflies. Did I have any, could I do something with dragonflies for her? I'm like, okay, well, I didn't really like the dragonflies I've taken photos of in the past, so I generated some in generative AI. Actually, it was in Firefly. It was before this version came out. Let me see if I can open them up for you, because I thought they came out really good. I actually had this, I think, to do. Did I actually have this in here? Let's see. Well, no, but if you look at advertising, they do. And they didn't create that by photographing it either. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Let's go over here. Let me go to, give me 1 second. I want to open up this folder because it's pretty cool. Illustrations, vector art. That's not what I want. Firefly, there we go. So I'm going to open up this folder. I'm going to drag the screen over here if I can. So these are the ones that I ended up making prints of for her, 8x10 prints. And these are all the versions that I generated. Some are, I did 5x7s, and then she wanted an 8x10, and I did take them into Topaz and do some AI clear or sharpening and denoising. I know I did do on them. So and these were all of the unused ones. And what I did notice too in one of these, and I think I might have deleted it, I was looking for it the other day, it had put a third wing on one side. So you have to be careful because, it's not always purely the smartest. So where are these images coming from? Does AI search the web? No, it's not searching the web at all. That is not how these are created. Adobe or whatever company's product you're using, whether it's Midjourney or any of the others that are out there, DALL-E, they feed images into their system as learning instruments. And it's the same way they've created, like Topaz created denoise and the sharpening. They do all this stuff. All of the AI programs are based somehow on algorithms of images. They're not using the actual image per se. They're not copying the image. It's training the intelligence to recognize this is what a dragonfly looks like. This is what a coffee mug looks like. So they're training these systems, and this takes lots and lots of times. When I was down at Topaz a few years ago, they were just getting into a lot of this stuff, the AI, and he showed me what they were doing. So they are not copying images. And this was another series I did. I was playing the other day, and I did like 20-something different versions. And this was one of the ones I liked the best. But I had told it, grasses with an abstract background and the colors I wanted and all that kind of stuff. All right, so let's see what else we have. Oh my gosh, it's 5 o'clock already. All right, I have two quick things to show you. These are two of the newer things that you can also do now in the beta version. If you watched my webinar on gradients and gradient maps, I had said I rarely use the gradient tool on the left-hand toolbar. So let's start with just a new blank document. I almost never use this gradient because it would create a gradient that you could not change. I usually use the gradient map or gradient adjustment layer. But now there's a new feature in here. I'm actually going to do this on an image. So let's open up this one. So I don't need the blank document. I'm going to start with an image. And this is one I've used a bunch of times for different things. So I'm going to create a gradient with this new tool. So over here, we're going to select the gradient. And we're going to come up here to the top. And for this, I'm going to go to Basics. And I want to choose Foreground to Background, which you can see my foreground color is a dark blue and the background is a yellow, so that's why I see this blue and yellow. So I'm going to select that one. Usually it's like black to white if you don't have any, if you're on black to white down here. And then from here, I'm going to change the colors, which that's probably remembering what I did before. Yep, it did. That's the blue color, and then I've already set my yellow color. So now with this tool, I'm going to just click and start to drag. Okay, so you can angle your gradient. You can, have more or less of one of the colors. And you can see when you let go, it's made a separate layer, which it did not do before. You would have to make a blank layer and then do it on there. And if I wanted to bring, have more of the blue, you can drag these around, and this is your midpoint, your blending. You can also adjust that. Okay, so it's totally customizable. So to blend this with my image, just like with any other gradient, you're going to be changing your blending modes. I go with multiply, and then bring back my opacity. Okay. And of course, that will vary depending on your colors and your image and all of that. So you can also, like I did in this case, I want to add a brightness and contrast adjustment layer. Another thing that changed in the beta, you'll notice over here, they now went back to having the words and the symbols for all of the adjustments, even in this format, which with the last few versions of Photoshop, it just had the symbols. Well, now that I've finally gotten used to the symbols, now they put the words back under them, which is nice, if you're not sure what you want. So I'm going to select the brightness and contrast, and you can adjust this, as needed. Maybe a little more contrast. Okay. So you can still do things like that. Then next, if I wanted to change these colors, I can click in here again, make sure that's highlighted, and just go right back here, and you can change your colors right in here, or you can even easier, just go back to your foreground and background, say I wanted a little bit lighter blue, and click our yellow, our background, and maybe I want a darker yellow, not that dark. And then just go back up here and again choose that foreground to background. And it's changed the colors already just by doing that. So as you change them down here, it's changing them up here if you're using that foreground to background setting. And that's under basics when you go in here. So like this is your, and if you hover over, this is foreground to transparent, and that's your black and white. And this one will say foreground to background. So that's the one you want to use for this process. And it makes it just really quick and easy to change things and to tweak it. So yeah, that's something that's very handy. And then the other thing in here that they changed, I mentioned the toolbar for the font interface. So we've got our type tool, and it looks, it's pretty much the same. But if you click on your drop down, you now have all the different classes of fonts, and it will automatically sort them. So let's say I want a script font. So this is my entire list of fonts right now, all classes. If I click on script, it's going to only show me the script fonts that I have, installed. I was trying to make that bigger, but I guess I can't. Okay, so these are all my script fonts, which makes it much easier to narrow things down. And if you click on more fonts, it brings out these tags. So however the fonts are tagged by the maker, I'm on sans serif, so that's not going to help. So script and calligraphic, can't talk today, it's going to show you just that style of script font. Let's try cursive, so you get something that's more like handwriting. So you get different sub-styles kind of there. So it's just narrowing things down for you if you kind of have an idea of what you want to work with. And the other way you can filter things, we can uncheck that, clear all. There we go. I want to go back to your fonts. If you click on the little Adobe symbol, this shows you, let's go to all classes. These are all of the fonts I already have installed that are Adobe fonts. The star shows you fonts that you favorited. So you see some I've favorited with a star there. So if I narrow it down, that's the only Adobe font that I've favorited. So you can unclick that to see all of your favorited fonts. And then if you click on this like double wave, it will show you fonts similar to one that you've already, decided you liked. It will show you similar fonts. And if these are Adobe fonts, if I don't have it installed, which these I don't, and say, okay, I want this font. If I click it and click this little cloud, it's going to download it. So it's now in my font list as one of my fonts. There it is up at the top already. It defaults to that. So we can go to all classes, uncheck that now, and it would be back in there. So it automatically, because I tested it and that works easier. Another way you can get more fonts when you're in your Creative Cloud desktop, too many things open. If you go to your Creative Cloud desktop, when you're in here, come over on the right-hand side, Adobe Fonts. These will show ones I've added. And then in the upper right, you can say Browse for more fonts. And it's going to take you to the Adobe site and a whole bunch of fonts. So you can, again, you can narrow it down if you say, okay, I know I want something that's script, calligraphic, and you can pick anything you like, just say add the family, and it will install it in your computer. It's a good thing to not have tons and tons of fonts in your Photoshop because it will slow it down. And when you install a font, not through here, but through you know, like a regular font, say you've purchased or from a freebie from one of the blogs, fonts are installed in your computer's font menu, so they're available through all of your programs, not just Photoshop. They're not installed in Photoshop. But if you have too many in your list, it does slow down your program a little bit. And there's some more details and screenshots and stuff in here. You can make a font available to other programs. So let's say I like this one and I want to add the family. It's added to my Adobe apps, and you can say okay, and it will install it across other apps as well. So it will install it in my font panel, and now it will be available if I go into Word or Publisher or anything else. Phew. All right. Let's see if we have any questions. Oh, Dave just put a link to some of the new stuff from Adobe. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, okay, well, I'll have to do that too later. Message me that link if you still have it in Facebook. The older beta version has a panel message that I can't get rid of. I don't know what you're seeing, so I'm not sure I can tell you how to do that. If you want to send me a screenshot, I'll see if I can help you with that, if you want to email me. Yeah, they usually do the big new versions, yeah, in the fall before Adobe Max, which is true. Shelley, I really have to work. I'm not clear if I can the beta Photoshop yet or not. I am so glad I clarified. Yes, Firefly is out of beta, so you can use that. Yeah, I'm not sure if you're working with an agency that, yeah, would probably be up to them. I used to be a graphic designer too, but that was pre-desktop days. I was dedicated typesetting equipment and cut and paste mechanical, so I'm an oldie. What's that, dear? Do you like generative AI better than the remove tool? As far as like doing the stuff we did, you know, around that, like with the birds and stuff, yes, I think it's much more responsive and intelligent. Overall, I think it works a lot better than even like content aware fill. That was very iffy. I think this does a much better job. I'm just scrolling up, see if I missed other things here. Oh, Amy says she Googled it, and this is what Adobe says about commercial use. In general, you may use outputs from generative AI features commercially. However, if Adobe designates in the product or elsewhere that a beta version of a generative AI feature cannot be used commercially, then the generated outputs from that beta feature are for personal use only. So once it goes into full Photoshop, then yes, you can use it for any purpose. So if you went into Firefly, I guess that's what Shelley was talking about too. If you use the actual Firefly app now, which is not beta anymore, that you could use commercially. But this is still beta. Okay. Phew. So yeah, the stuff that's still in beta is this feature with the gradients and the font manager, and having access to generate things right here with prompts. That was in Firefly before, so now it's moving into Photoshop itself. All the stuff we did early on with the generative fills and expand, that's already in regular Photoshop in your Creative Cloud version. It's not beta. Those are available. So it's just these last few things that we did that are still beta. What's that, dear? Okay, Dave sent me the link, so when I talk about everything in the blog tomorrow, I'll check that out and put that in the blog too for you to follow up. So if you didn't grab it from the chat. So don't forget to get your notes, and then you'll be able to join us for the next version, because I'm sure they'll come up with some new features between now and a month from now. And then we'll maybe get a little bit deeper into some of these. And like I said, I will in the email you get from Zoom tomorrow, that is the follow-up, and I always put the link to the recording in that as well. I will mention in there about sending questions, and I'll probably just have you email me, but in the heading put for AI webinar or something like that, so that I notice them. Edward, if you don't have the notes yet, they are available. Let me put up my last slide and I'll show you where you can grab them. They're on my website. You can go to meredithimages.com and go to the Peacock Studio, and then there's subcategories, and you'll see one for webinar notes, and it should be the first one that pops up. I'll also have the link in that email tomorrow that you'll get from Zoom. You can sign up for my blog if you already don't get it. That gives you the Sunday sampler with free textures, and then on Wednesdays I do Around the Web with articles and other freebies and things that I find. Don't forget we have 2 spots on our Route 66 trip and 4 now on our Southwest. I had somebody sign up yesterday, and I'll be announcing dates fairly soon, I think, for the Barnes and Backroads workshops. Some are going to be in Tennessee, and we're also going to do a Haunted West Virginia workshop, and I'm working on confirming with the locations, and those are all going to be the workshops. The Barnes and Backroads will start late April, and the West Virginia one's going to be like mid-May. And there you have it. Alrighty. Whew. Covered a lot of stuff today. Hopefully that helped you, get your bearings with some of this if you haven't been experimenting. But it's like any of this stuff, you got to jump in there and play and try it. Come up with a creative prompt and try and generate something and see what you come up with. And if you don't already have the beta installed, when you're in your account, let's go to home. I meant to tell you that. Not the fonts. Let's go back to here. Yep. When you're in your home panel, if it doesn't show up in your apps, if you go to your app thing, if it doesn't already show up as available, go up here at the top. There's beta. Click on there, and there's the Photoshop beta. And you can just install it right from there. So that's how you can get that. Okay. Hey, Cheryl. I don't know if I'm the Wizard of Oz, but hopefully it let you see what's going on. Alrighty. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your being here and hanging in for a little extra time. And we will talk to you soon. Have a great one.